Hello guys and welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be talking about the Earth and humans. Basically, we're going to be talking about the evolution of life that was on Earth. It's going to be really fun. So, we'll begin by studying the Earth's evolution, how the Earth came to be. So, why does the Earth look like as it is today? Well, Earth since the beginning, since the creation, went through a lot of stages. So those stages are, namely hot start, which scientists call the Precambrian era. It's around 4.6 to 4 billion years ago. And next came the life beginnings, where new life started to being born. And this stage was around 4 billion to 541 million years ago. That was a huge chunk of time in our Earth evolution. Now next came the age of animals, which is the time period where animals started to develop, where animals like we see today are being born during these times. And this happened around 541 to 252 million years ago. And next came dinosaur time, which scientists also call it the Mesozoic era. And if you guys have heard of dinosaurs before, there are these creatures that lived a long time ago, 252 million years ago. They were these scary looking reptiles that are huge compared to humans, and we'll actually get to see some pictures of dinosaurs later on in this video. And they lived from 252 million years ago to 66 million years ago. And then next came a cold stage of Earth called the Ice Age. Well, the Ice Age officially began 2.858 million years ago, but a recent one was around 100,000 years ago, which happens continuously until present day. And finally comes the humans, us, human beings. And scientists call this human era, or 11,700 years ago to present day, a Cenozoic era. So this is a basic an overview of what we're going to be studying today, studying from the hot start, how the Earth was made, all the way to us human beings and how humans are being developed. If we get a closer look at this snail looking picture here, we can see that last time, remember, we started talking about the Big Bang Theory and how there were galaxies that are being created, how there are stars being created. Well, a couple of billion and even billion years later, starting from the Big Bang, resulted in the creation of Earth, which you can see here, and then it led all the way up until present day. And this is really big, and you might feel overwhelmed, but don't be so scared because you saw this guy spin. It's going to be a fun video. Okay, a hot start, also known as the Precambrian eon. Well, the Earth was formed from 4.6 billion years ago. That is a long time ago. And it was formed from a mixture of gas and dust that gather around the sun. It was mostly a liquid magma, which is 1000 degrees hot. If you don't know what a magma is a really hot substance that is melted from a rock. So you can see a picture here. This is a magma. And even if you look at it from afar, you can tell that this is really hot, like this person is on fire. It's over 1000 degrees hot. That was what the Earth was made when it was created 4.6 billion years ago. So this was Earth. It looks really different from today's Earth, but it was still Earth when it was created. Now moving on to life and how life began. And I stated that life began from around 3.6 billion years ago until today. So let's see how that life came to Earth. Well, a theory by many scientists suggests that asteroids started crashing into Earth. Well, asteroids, you can see on the picture on the right, is a rock that is floating in space. So a rock tends to crash into Earth whenever it is in the path. So these rocks that are floating into space sometimes crashed into Earth. And that's what scientists believe brought life to Earth. But as Earth cooled down, minerals from the asteroids formed the water, and the minerals from the asteroids, when Earth cooled down, had gathered on Earth, and it started precipitating, and everything was made out of water during that time. So the formation of water marked the start of life on Earth. So again, asteroids, the rocks that are in space, started crashing into Earth, and that formed life and water. So you can see that the Earth was entirely water. There are no lands yet. So with water, life began to form on Earth again like 3.7 billion years ago. So I talked about this last time briefly, and we talked about microscopic organisms, or these microbes that are too small for us to see. If you click here, yeah, he's saying so small. These organisms are really small, but it's really important to learn because these were the first life that was on Earth. And this is also life that is living. And some of these microbes were able to provide oxygen to the carbon dioxide filled gas, making Earth livable for other organisms too. So oxygen, as you might know, is what we breathe and what our body takes in. So oxygen is also important because we needed to live our everyday lives. So this person is breathing on oxygen or air that has oxygen, and he's saying fresh air. Of course, fresh air was created, like the picture here. So again, first it was a flaming red hot ball that was filled with magma. Earth was first a ball of magma. Then when it cooled down, asteroids started crashing into Earth and formed water. And later, life, such as bacteria, formed oxygens that are on the Earth's atmosphere. That's where we're at so far. Now, moving on to the age of animals, where actual animals start to form, not only the microbes, the microscopic organisms, but also other fish, other, like, for example, I'll talk about this in a bit, but during this time, around 541 to 252 million years ago, more diverse organisms started forming. You might be asking, what even is an organism? What is that? Organisms are living things that have many pieces that work together. So organism is every living thing that we see. We are living, so we are organisms. So some organisms that were during this time period were fish, jellyfish, and other marine-like animals like trilobites started forming. So I have this detective here, and he says, let's take a closer look at these animals or organisms. If we actually click here, we have a video, and this will show what exact organisms were living during these time periods. So you can see the Paleozoic era, which is the official name of the age of animals. So there were these sorts of organisms. Oh, there were also this weird shaped shrimp-like organism. Very interesting. That one almost looks like a plant. As you might realize, like, all of these organisms are shaped weird. I guess not weird, but shaped peculiar, because most of these organisms were really different and were not developed as our current organisms. So these may look different. Of course it does, because these are really small and they existed a long time ago. And these organisms are all extinct. They're gone from our society. Sad to hear, but There's also these sort of organisms, living things. Looks like a fish. And an even bigger one. This one looks scary. It has a lot of spikes on the back. And you can see this is a comparison between a human and an animal. So imagine the person walking is you, and this is an exact size comparison between you and that organism. So he's getting smaller, organisms are getting bigger. There are also like these big, weird living things back in the day. Wow, there are these like big shark-shaped organisms too. That's scary. They're getting bigger. About 5 to 8 meters. They were that long. Wow, that is huge. Yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, let's continue on. Wait, before we continue, I'd like to add on something. So in addition, continents also started to make shape during this period, during the Paleozoic era. So what I mean by continents, so continents, which are just pieces of land, started appearing due to volcanoes underneath oceans. So the land you're standing on today is formed by volcanoes that are underneath the ocean. So the picture left here shows a volcano erupting underneath an ocean and probably rises now. And the picture on the right clearly shows that there is this red thing here. And what is that red thing? You know, it's magma. We just talked about it before, when Earth was first formed. So that magma, it rises from underneath the Earth and then forms the land that you're standing on today because of the low temperature of water. So when lava or magma meets with water, it forms land that we see today. And that's how the lands are being formed and was formed in the past. So you can see an island formed from a volcano that is underneath. A volcano is basically like a mountain that erupts and shoots out these magmas and lavas, and that forms the land again. Now let's move on. Talking about dinosaurs, the most interesting part. So it's also called the Mesozoic era, and many organisms in the previous era, such as ancient fish and trilobites, started to die because of a sudden change in the temperature. They all died out. So as a result, when some of the organisms began to develop again, they started coming onto land. Remember that lands were formed from the volcanoes? And when the organisms came onto land, they finally developed into what we know as dinosaurs, and what you guys love. I hope you guys like dinosaurs because I really do. And also, first trees started to form in the warm air as well. So the picture on the left here shows a bunch of dinosaurs. Some are on land, some are flying, and these are all just different types of dinosaurs that were present in that day. And the picture on the right corner here shows a forest and ferns and bushes, since most of the plants were formed during this period. Let me just show you some examples of, have you guys heard of Tyrannosaurus Rex? Since this is it's the apex predator, so it means that it is the greatest dinosaur, since it is the strongest out of all the dinosaurs, as it is believed, and it hunts down other dinosaurs. And that's the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So if you look at this person is he's scared. He's running away. And now there are also dinosaurs like Triceratops, which were quite friendly. These are herbivores, which means that they eat plants and grass and other fruits. They do not eat meat. Tyrannosaurus Rex were carnivores, which means that they eat meat or they eat other organisms to gain energy. So these were just different types of dinosaurs that lived during those times. So the dinosaurs ruled the earth for quite a long time, from 252 to 66 million years ago, until asteroids struck the earth. So the gases in the air blocked the sunlight, killing all dinosaurs living on earth. So the asteroids, like I talked about before, the random floating rocks in space, they started crashing into Earth again during this time. And it killed the dinosaur in the process, and the crashing asteroids also formed this layer that blocks the sunlight. So the dinosaurs could not live anymore. And this boy is crying. No! All the dinosaurs are dying. If you can see in the picture, it's on fire, and this one's already dead. And I will show you guys a video which further shows this drastic period when the dinosaurs started to die. So an ad. Okay. It's a short video. Let's enjoy it.
Most of the impact energy was deflected out or up. Only 1% of the force traveled down into the ground. But it's enough to ring the planet like a bell.
It's the asteroids that are crashing into Earth.
Across and through the Earth.
And it's sending shockwaves.
40 seconds later, they reach the Pacific Northwest.
And this is where the dinosaurs live.
The valley shakes as a magnitude 11 earthquake ripples through the ground.
The asteroids started crashing, and there were earthquakes like this disaster.
Panic at the edges of the valley in their desperate attempt to escape the tremors and falling debris. Smaller animals take shelter underground.
Look at this.
The ejector cloud approaches at 16,000 kilometers per hour, baking the Earth with unrelenting heat.
These are all dinosaurs that are dying.
Millions of volts of static electricity charge the cloud like a giant battery, creating a vast electrical storm. Superheated rocks shower the valley in a burning hail. The Quetzalcoatlus managed to flee the devastation caused by the quake, but there's no way to hide from a rain of fire. Only the valley floor can provide shelter, and they're too big to descend quickly.
Those flying dinosaurs started dying
the
too.
male's tattered wings can no longer keep him aloft. If his mate doesn't find shelter soon, she'll be next. On the mountain slopes, two triceratops emerge above the cool
The
sea mist.
triceratops that we talked about before. These were them.
They're almost out of the quake-ravaged valley when the ejector cloud arrives.
And they all started dying. No, the dinosaurs.
Just hours ago, North America
they're
was
dead.
a dinosaur paradise. Now, it's a living hell.
This is what the asteroids caused.
The ejector cloud continues its spread across the globe. But the effects it has on the ground vary dramatically.
The clouds started covering the earth and making the fire even worse.
12,000 kilometers away in Mongolia, the cloud rolls in silently from the east. Temperatures on the ground creep upwards, a few degrees hotter every second. There's no audible warning for the creatures here, only the mounting heat. As the air reaches 50 degrees Celsius, their only hope is shelter. At 70 degrees, survival is measured in minutes. And at over 90 degrees, in mere seconds. 90 minutes after impact, the temperature on the ground in Mongolia peaks at 150 degrees Celsius.
They started dying because of the heat. And yeah, that was a short video that showed, sadly, how the dinosaurs all died. It's depressing, but that was how time was set as. But on the bright side, as a side note, after the dinosaurs, the Pangea, which is a really big supercontinent that formed. A supercontinent is a big chunk of land from volcanic eruptions. So we talked about small islands that formed from the volcanic eruptions. But they all gathered and they all got pushed into one big supercontinent. And that is called the Pangea. The name of it is called the Pangea. And it started to form the shape of our continents today by being separated. So this was all due to the continents moving along the oceans formed on Earth. So Pangea was a huge piece of land, and it started breaking apart and setting apart due to the oceans that were on the Earth. And it started floating, floating, floating until it shaped how our Earth is shaped today. The picture's on the next slide. The boy is yelling. Okay, let's see it. Okay, this is the picture he was talking about. Before and after the continental drift. So this is called the Pangea. It's a huge piece of land. Earth looked like this. But after, it looks like this. This looks familiar, right? If you have like a globe at the school, you can definitely check that out. Or you guys can search up a picture of a globe. And this is how the Earth is shaped today. Africa's here, and America's here, North America, South America, and there's Europe, Eurasia, and there's Asia on the way back. But before, it was all a huge chunk of peace, a huge supercontinent known as Pangea. But then it spread apart and it shaped like this today. That was something quick about our current geography. Now, getting on to the Ice Age, the cold period. So, when was this? And how did this happen? So, Earth, due to the high level of oxygen, like we talked about before, how the bacteria released oxygens into the atmosphere, and the low level of carbon dioxide. We didn't talk about carbon dioxide yet, but you can think of it as a certain gas that is in the atmosphere. And with the high level of oxygen and the low level of carbon dioxide, the Earth was covered in ice. So it was an icy place. It was not hot like when it was first formed, it was all ice. This is known as the Ice Age. So you can see the temperatures really dropping down, and this person is frozen because the earth was too cold. And again, it started from 2.58 million years ago and went until 11,500 years ago. That's a huge period of time that Earth was frozen, almost completely frozen, since because of the lack of oxygen in the atmosphere. The more oxygen that was in the atmosphere. So it looks like this. The Earth was almost full of icebergs, and you can't imagine how cold this was. So this person is freezing cold. Perhaps he was there and tells the story, but the Earth, again, during that time was really cold, and almost no organisms lived there. But there still were some animals or mammals that lived there. So during the Ice Age, mammals started to form. So what are mammals? And what's the difference between an organism and a mammal? Well, mammals are organisms that have babies and not eggs, like us humans. And it's important that the mother feeds milk to their offsprings, which their babies. And that is the definition of mammals. Basically, the mammals have babies, not eggs, like we do, like us humans. And most of them include the ones that we see today, like, for example, your dog is a mammal and your cat is a mammal, but the chickens you may see outside your school is not a mammal. It's a type of bird. And again, mammals have babies and not eggs, which are different. And mammals during the Ice Age includes mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, Irish elks, and mastodons. So the picture down here shows a peaceful, a perhaps peaceful time of the Ice Age where mammals such as I mentioned before, mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and stuff like that, mammals like that lived on Earth. So this is how they look like. That is a mammoth, and I believe this is a buffalo, a type of buffalo that may live during the Ice Age. And then let's move on. Okay, if you guys don't have any questions so far, I guess I'll move on, but let me just clarify everything that we talked about so far before humans. So first, again, I can quickly go back. It was a hot start. Remember? The spinning thermometer is saying hot, hot, hot. Everything was a fireball. Then what happened next? Asteroids started crashing into Earth and it formed water. And after water formed, this small microscopic organisms formed. Then what happened? Then air formed. That organisms, those microscopic organisms, formed oxygen. And now what happened? It was the age of animals where a bunch of animals started to form. We watched the video, right? And there are also volcanoes forming underneath to form lands or continents. Then what happened? It was the dinosaurs again. The scary dinosaurs. Dinosaurs died out, and after dinosaurs, there were these pieces of land that shaped the Earth today. And then there was the Ice Age, which we just talked about. And then there were a lot of organisms or mammals that lived during the Ice Age. So this is where we are after the Ice Age, and here is the current age. Humans now. Scientists calls it the Cenozoic era, and during this time humans started to develop from apes, and this is a picture of a human, and this is human. We are humans. Humans are the most recent species called Homo, and humans have went through evolutions from 2 million years ago until today. So some traits of humans are just long-lived, short teeth, stone tools, having to use stone tools, larger brain, vertical face, and short jaw compared to other apes. And scientists believe that we came from monkey, which is from an evolution theory. We talked about evolution theory quite a last week, but we'll cover them today. More on that in just a bit. But human development. Okay, this might be a little freaky, but we started off looking like this. So almost like a monkey. But it is still, scientists still believe that the genes from the monkey came to the human beings, the Homo sapiens that we are today. So to give a basic image, first came the Australopithecus, which were these type of apes or monkeys, and then came the Homo habilis, and then came the Homo erectus, and Homo neanderthalis, and the Homo sapiens, which we are today. We are Homo sapiens. That was me? Yes, that was us. Unless that's what the scientist believes right now. So Australopithecus afarensis. So they were considered to be the early ancestors of us humans, and most of them living in Africa. So ancestors are people who came before us. Like our parents are our ancestors, our grandparents are our ancestors. But a long, long, long time ago, scientists believed that these apes and monkeys were our ancestors. So although they look closer to, again, apes and monkeys to us, they surprisingly share similar genes with us. I mentioned gene before, but you guys might be asking, what even is a gene? What is a gene? So genes are traits that are passed down from your ancestors, like your father, mother, or your grandfather, grandmother, and those are like traits like our facial structures, our color of the eyes, our, let's say, our hair, and how tall we are and how we look like. It's all genes. It's all related to genes, which are just traits. So again, our early genes were from Australopithecus, which looks closer to monkeys, but we have a relation with them. That was me again. Yes, that was you. Next came the Homo habilis, which was around 1.6 million years ago. So compared to Australopithecus, which we just talked about before, Homo habilis had larger brains. Their brains were larger, and they had a smaller head and teeth, and they had a more structured skull, and they had more human-shaped figures than Australopithecus. So this is a Homo habilis. It's getting closer to human beings, but not quite yet. But these still kind of do look like monkeys and apes, but they look way more like humans than the Australopithecus, which we just talked about before. So this is the skull of an Australopithecus, and this is the skull of a Homo habilis. It looks much more different, and our skulls look really similar to the Homo habilis, since it is a better structured, smaller teeth, and smaller head size. Again, comparing the Australopithecus, it looked more like a monkey and an ape, but now we're getting closer to what kind of shaped like a human being. After Homo habilis came the Homo erectus, which was from 1.6 million years ago to 250,000 years ago. So again, if you can see the picture here, Homo erectus looks more closer to us, and Homo erectus was known for being able to stand upright. That is why they're called the Homo erectus, since erect of Homo erectus means upright. So before the apes and the Homo habilis, they were all crunched down, and they were shaped like this, you can see in the picture here. But Homo erectus started to rise up and started to walk on 2 feet and started to walk upright. That's why called the Homo erectus. And yeah, they were able to walk normally. Again, they had a proper head size and smaller teeth and stuff like that. And again, it's starting to have a shape like the human beings. It's starting to look like us. And finally, we have the Homo sapiens, which are from 250,000 years ago until today. So Homo sapiens are what we know as modern humans, having changed significantly since Homo erectus. So brains were more developed, which Homo sapiens were able to think critically, and they had more round faces, and they had fixed facial structures like teeth in place, their eyes in their proper place, and fixed bone structures in their bodies, and way more developed than other types of Homo. So Homo sapiens are us, we are Homo sapiens, I am Homo sapiens, you are Homo sapiens, and just remember the name because it is really important, and just know that this was an ancient Homo sapien around like 100,000 years ago or something, but they learned to congregate, they learned to be together with other Homo sapiens, and they started to create tools, and they were really beginning to develop. And actually, next week's lesson is about human evolution, more specifically about the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and how humans' technology has been developed. So be excited for that, since it all connects. Since before we started with a Big Bang, and now we came to Earth and to human evolution, and then after that, it comes the human technologies. So be excited for that. Okay, final review and a final recap. First, do you guys remember what happened first? When Earth was created? Yeah, that's right. Everything was hot. Everything was made out of magma. It was a ball of magma. Again, magma is a really hot liquid. And then after the Earth cooled down, what started striking? Yes, it's the asteroids. Asteroids started crashing into Earth. And what did the asteroids form? Well, it formed water and life that is on Earth. So, after that, what happened? Well, first life formed. The first life was the microscopic organisms, and some of them was able to create what in Earth? Well, some of the microscopic organisms were able to create oxygen, which created the Earth's atmosphere. So animals were able to breathe, other organisms were able to breathe since we had oxygen. And now what happened? Now came the age of animals, right? Remember? We watched a video about the weird animals that we saw on the Paleozoic era. That's the age of animals. That's what the scientists call it, the Paleozoic era. But you guys can just remember it as the age of animals, and where first animals started being developed. So weird animals, and also what happened during that period? Well, started forming land and continents. So those lands and continents formed by the volcanoes that are underneath the ocean, formed small islands, which developed into later known as a supercontinent, a Pangea. Pangea, again, was a supercontinent that formed our countries that are today. And also, what happened after, though? What happened in between? Well, it was the age of dinosaurs, remember? After forming animals, they formed dinosaurs. And the dinosaurs, they lasted quite a long time, but they died out. Why did they die out? Well, because of an asteroid. We're right here. During dinosaur time, the asteroids started crashing into Earth. What is an asteroid? An asteroid is a rock that is flying in space. So, dinosaurs were all killed by the asteroids, by the heat. And then what happened? Well, after the continents started to form, the Ice Age was started. So, Ice Age started from actually it started from like 2 billion years ago, but the most recent one was 2.5 million years ago until 11,000 years ago. So that was the Ice Age. And why was it called the Ice Age? Well, Ice Age was really cold, and the weather was really, really freezing, and the Earth was almost complete ice. It's the opposite. When the Earth was created, it was a ball of magma, but during the Ice Age, it was a ball of ice. So, completely different temperatures. It was really cold during that time. But what animals lived there? Did animals really live during the Ice Age? Well, remember that mammals started to form. Mammals are organisms which have babies and not eggs. So we are mammals, for example. So mammals started to form, such as mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and stuff like that. And then after that came the humans, which we just talked about. If we can actually go back to the human development, here is just a basic outline. Again, starting from Australopithecus, which is more closer to apes or monkeys. Then came Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals, and Homo sapiens, which we are today. Okay. Phew, that was a lot. That was a long journey. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, but we will finish up this lesson with a final recap video, which is a 10-minute video, which I think you guys will enjoy. And let's watch this video, and we'll end it after watching this video. Yeah. Okay, 10-minute video. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a recap.
In the past few billion years, Earth has been pummeled by asteroids, crashed into other planets, and frozen over several times. Not to mention being ruled by all kinds of crazy life forms. Sometimes it's a wonder that our blue homeworld has survived it all. But if we want to take a whirlwind tour of our planet's history, we'll have to start way back at the very beginning. Some 4.5 billion years ago, our solar system began to emerge out of a dense cloud of interstellar gas and dust. This cloud collapsed into a swirling disk of matter that got hotter and hotter and hotter until hydrogen fused into helium.
Well, this was last week's topic,
And
which is
just
on
like that,
the galaxy.
our sun was born.
Remember this?
And baby Earth was on its way too.
Yep.
After the birth of our star, all the matter on the farthest ends of the spinning disk began to clump together. These clumps would be the seedlings for the planets and moons in our solar system. As they accumulated more matter, they grew bigger and more spherical. The clumps in the cooler regions of the solar system were mostly made of ice, liquids, and gases. Closer to the sun, all the rocky material formed the inner planets like Mars and Earth. This young Earth was incredibly active, volcanically speaking. It spewed out gases like hydrogen sulfide,
lava
methane,
and magma,
carbon
you can see.
dioxide. These gases made up the very first atmosphere on our planet. Early Earth was constantly bombarded by large asteroids and comets, and soon Earth experienced an even more violent collision. Theia, a planet the size of Mars, slammed right into our young world. This epic collision threw chunks of matter all around Earth's orbit, and then gravity bound them together into what we know now as the moon.
We didn't talk about this before, but that's how the moon was formed, but we didn't
On
discuss it,
this
so you
hot,
don't need to worry
early
about that.
Earth, there were no oceans. All water existed as gas.
Yep.
But 3.8 billion years ago, our planet cooled enough for water to condensate and become liquid.
It's from the asteroids,
The
remember?
very first primitive ocean covered this young Earth and turned it into a water world.
Yep, it's full of water.
H2O is an essential ingredient for creating living things. So, with all that water, life appeared on Earth about 3.7 billion years ago. These earliest forms of life were microscopic organisms, but it was nearly a billion years after that that some of these organisms changed the course of the world. Earth didn't stay as a water world very long. Soon, the very first continents emerged from the ancient ocean.
Yep.
Scientists
Despite
call them
volcanoes.
cratons. As more and more land rose from the ocean, the very first supercontinent appeared on the planet. Valbara wasn't exactly a supercontinent. It was pretty small. Scientists think it was smaller than the continent of Australia.
Almost like an island. Yeah.
Around 2.4 billion years ago, cyanobacteria evolved. to become our planet's first photosynthesizers. Finally, we had some oxygen producers to make Earth's atmosphere much more hospitable.
They formed
And
oxygen.
the rest is history, folks. Just kidding. We've still got a long way to go. With all this new oxygen, Earth's atmosphere had much lower levels of carbon dioxide. And that made the planet icy cold. Much of our young world froze over as Earth saw its first ice age. Now, as Earth's atmosphere was changing, the continents were moving too. They broke up and reassembled into the next supercontinent, Rodinia. Rodinia was a real supercontinent. It may have been the largest supercontinent to ever cover the planet. And life? Well, life finally became more complex.
Age of animals.
But then something happened. Rodinia broke apart and a new supercontinent assembled. This one was called Pannotia. Then, between about 540 and 485 million years ago, there was an explosion of new life. This time was called the Cambrian explosion. And the animals that evolved during this period
there were a lot of
had
weird
hard body
life.
parts, like shells or spines.
They all
The
looked
most
weird.
famous of all were the alien-looking trilobites.
Oh, look at them. They look really weird, right?
Around 440 million years ago, the climate suddenly shifted and the temperature of the ocean changed dramatically. Earth saw its first mass extinction event. This was the Ordovician Silurian extinction, and a majority of the life that had been spreading around the planet vanished. Many of these life forms laid the foundation for the ecosystems that we have on Earth today. Somewhere between 420 to 350 million years ago, the first trees arose from Earth's soil. And the first animals made their way to land, too. $250 million years ago, the planet was covered by our last vast supercontinent, Pangaea.
This is what we talked
Sadly,
about.
it was also
Pangaea.
during this period that Earth witnessed the greatest mass extinction event in our history, the Great Dying. Huge amounts of greenhouse gases and accelerated global warming wiped out about 90% of all species on Earth. But this mass extinction helped pave the way for the next wave of animals to evolve. 240
Dinosaurs.
to 230 million years ago, the first dinosaurs appeared. For the next 150 million years, they'd rule the land. If you were there, you'd have witnessed the gigantic sauropod Argentinosaurus, the largest land animal ever.
Yep, they were.
Or you might have been chased by one of the Earth's greatest apex predators, the T-Rex. And you'd also witness Pangaea breaking up and forming the continents we know today.
Yep, it broke up and formed the
Okay,
continents.
you may already know where this is headed.
A continent or an asteroid.
6 million years ago,
Asteroid.
an asteroid slammed into our planet, right where Mexico sits now. It coughed up so much debris into the atmosphere that it blocked out the sun. This led to devastating climate changes that caused the dinosaurs to die out. In the next wave of emerging animals, mammals became more common. Around 6 million years ago, the earliest known humans started walking this world. This species was called Sahelanthropus, though they still likely walked on all fours. 4 million years ago, early humans began to walk upright, and about 1 million years later, they developed the first known tools, which they used to break things. Some 800,000 years ago, things sparked. These early humans discovered how to control fire and could now cook food and provide themselves with heat. Their brains continued to evolve, now more rapidly than ever. These humans learned to interact with each other and the surrounding world in whole new ways. Then, between 40,000 to 15,000 years ago, all other human species besides Homo sapiens went extinct. 10,000 years ago, Earth saw its earliest farmers. These previously nomadic humans stopped wandering the planet and finally put down their roots. Jumping way forward to about 250 years ago, the Industrial Revolution took place. We went through major technological...
Well, we will talk about these human developments later on, but that would actually be our next lesson, which we will talk about the Industrial Revolution. We will talk about the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, every development that human had, starting from the Homo sapiens.
Socioeconomic and cultural transformations.
For next week's lesson.
Rural-based farm societies became more industrialized urban ones. Our human population continued to grow. By 1804, we reached 1 billion. By 1927, we'd hit 2 billion. And since the 1960s, the global population has risen faster and faster to where it is now, at over 8 billion people. And now there's a new threat to human existence and many other forms of life here on Earth. Climate change. Temperatures and sea levels are rising worldwide, and biodiversity is declining. We could be on the verge of another mass extinction event if things don't change. But that's a story for another.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, again, that was a huge journey, and I really hoped you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching for today's video. And if you have any questions, you can ask them in class. If you don't, I hope you have a great day and have an awesome day at school. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.